this abomination. See ya. Today I got this little Fiat 500 behind my shop. This person here, unfortunately, is suffering from wireitis. They have this huge conglomeration with all these wires and chargers and adapters because, believe it or not, the factory SD card, I mean, I don't understand what the heck. USB, auxiliary doesn't do a damn thing, so they have to rely on purchasing their own accessories. This little plug to get charging, which is not even good enough for today's standards. You got a 1 amp charger and a 2.1, and this thing just looks hideous. So we're going to get rid of this, and the plan for today is we're going to remove the existing cigarette lighter plug, and we're going to retrofit it with a dual charger, which is going to be compatible with USB 3.0 and Type C, so that way whatever you want to throw at it, it's going to be compatible. It'll be in the factory stock location, and I'm going to show you how to pull this all apart, connect it, wire it, check it, verify it, and how to do it, whether you're doing a fresh installation or retrofitting the factory one, like which I'm going to be doing in this Fiat today. So the first thing we want to do is remove that piece right there, and since I'm replacing this, there's going to be some components. Typically in most vehicles, I mean, not everybody's going to drive around this car, but in this car, it's no different than most modern vehicles. So what you're going to do is, in this case, it's going to require a panel puller typically, which will expose the top cover. And in this case, there's a rubber dealie here, which you're going to have to kind of wiggle out of there. These 3 screws were already removed by me to save time on the video. It's just 3 Torx screws. I think they're like T15s, and that's going to expose this area right here. And basically the only thing that's holding me back is this plug, and it's just, you squeeze this little tab and pull it back, and that's going to remove this entire component, which will allow me to install the new USB charger and just basically wire it back into here, and then we're going to be in business. So this part that I'm using is a part from Excel, or Bueller I think they call it. It's a USB-R QCS, and this here is a 3.0 charger, and it's a dual charger, and it's got the 2 pins on the back, and it's got these little pieces so you can adjust it, and depending on how your install is going to go. Now the way I'm going to install this is I already have the factory plug, and I'm going to connect this with 2 females to go into these male terminals. I'm going to use a piece of speaker wire. This component is already fused by the stock location, so there's no need to add the fuse, upgrade it, or change it in any way. So I'm just going to extend this out, run it, and I'm going to use T-taps, which are basically, I'm going to show you how they work. I'm just stripping back about ½ inch of wire, and this here is just 18 gauge speaker wire. It's nothing fancy. Of course, 18 gauge female insulated terminals I'm using. Standard crimper. There we go. Now on the other side, same kind of thing, except I'm putting insulated male terminals on this side. And these are the males that are going to slide it to my T-taps. So if you're unfamiliar with what T-taps are, I use them all the time. And they're really cool because you can totally reverse the connection. So if this is a lease, if you're selling your vehicle, you want to trade it and put it back to stock, it's so easy because these things unclip and it makes it like it was never even done at all. So essentially what happens is you take this little T-tap, right? It's like a little Pac-Man looking dealie. You click it and it makes a little click, and it makes a insulated female receptacle where you can slide the pre-plumbed male terminals into, and it makes a wire connection just like that. Pretty cool, right? I'm taking my standard test light, and I'm using this basic cheap test light on purpose because I don't want you guys to be using tools that you can't afford or don't have access to. I mean, I usually use my Matco Power Pro, and people drool when they see it, but most people can't afford it because it's just not practical to own a Power Pro. Like, you know, not everybody's doing this all day long like me. So in this plug, there's 3 wires, and actually this vehicle actually is interesting, and I'll tell you why. First thing you want to do is you want to find where your ground is on the plug. And how you do that is you ground your test light. Most of these plugs come on with the key accessory. You just see that this one here, this pin is showing 12 volts. And it goes low during crank and stays on. So this here wire, the gray, is an accessory. This one over here, which is the yellow, actually,
to acknowledge the person and the work.
is, believe it or not, is an ignition wire. And you can tell the difference because it stays hot during crank. See that? It doesn't go away like this one. If you notice real quick, this is back on the accessory, the gray wire. See, it'll go out when you crank. That tells me that this here is the accessory wire that we want to target. And obviously this last pin here, the black, is going to be my ground because you're not getting anything, otherwise the test light will come on. And the test light won't come on unless it's getting a circuit from the vehicle. I'm going to go for the gray as my power and black as my ground. Going to my little T-taps like I was telling you about. You hear that click? Now that's kind of like what your T-taps should look like when they're on there. You can see they're fully seated and there's a full connection. You can see the tab, the plastic's locked in on both sides. So now all I have to do is, when I'm ready to drop my new part in there, take my copper, which is going to be my hot, slide that into the gray, which is like 12 volts. And you've got the silver, which is going to be our ground, which is black in this vehicle. And then there you go. There's your connection to the vehicle. And this plug will just leave alone, so that way you can reverse this, like I said, if you ever get rid of the vehicle, if you want to take this out and take it to your next car. All right, so basically in this vehicle, I'm just going to take this in here. You're going to find that there's going to be some plastic tabs. If you just squeeze them in, this one's got one here, and there, and a third there. There you go. Out she goes. So that goes bye-bye. And then here we have our new one. And you can see we're a little bit, it's not fitting exactly right. So you can either do a couple things here. You could do a Dremel, you could do a hand file, whatever you're going to have to do, because you want this, it's going to fit perfectly overall. It's basically about, I don't know, maybe 1/16 or a little bit more. Not too much. It should just be a straight retrofit once we get this thing filed out nice. One really cool thing about this thing I forgot to mention is actually in here, when you touch it and you turn the vehicle on, it actually has a voltmeter built into it. So it tells you what the voltage is in the vehicle. I thought that was pretty cool. I forgot that that thing was a thing until I looked at it and said, look at that. It's got a little voltmeter in it. If this thing will allow, I want to use this. If not, I'm just going to use some hot glue and put it in there. But look at that. Just took about a 1/16 of an inch off, and that did the trick perfectly. And it's got this nice little cover. I noticed that this person who drives this car is kind of like a pig. They'll probably get that thing filthy in no time. They could probably use that little cover. You know who you are. Sometimes you got to pick your battles and say, well, do I want to trim some more because it's going to be hidden underneath, or it's going to stay snug enough if I just kind of like go with what I'm working with now. And in this case, I try to avoid, you know, getting too aggressive on a car if I have a choice. But I guess that's what makes a professional and an amateur an amateur. You all seen what amateurs can do. We don't want that. So yeah, there we go. I mean, that sucker's in there. It's pretty damn tight too, nice and snug. Just get it straightened out a little bit so it looks like it belongs in there. There we go. Now you see it? Now you don't. Now here comes the fun part. And also, as a side note, most of the cars are not usually this easy to access. A lot of times, other panels have to be removed prior to removing the panel that you're looking to get at. Like in this car, I was tinkering with it. I mean, this is like almost every other car pretty much in existence, where you just basically take a panel puller, a little bit of pressure, this whole car will fall apart, you know, with enough time. So anyway, this is here. I'm going to take a wire tie and I'm going to tie this thing back. I'm going to pay attention that I don't want to interfere with anything that's has any type of movement in this vehicle or anything like that. You don't want to change anything in the vehicle. You just want to integrate, not eliminate. You just want to make it really as friendly as an installation as you can possibly be. So we'll give it a quick test before we sew this thing up. So the new USB charger is installed. This abomination, see ya? Here's the way it's supposed to work. You got two chargers here. You got a 2.1 amp and you have a 1 amp. Here's your phone. Turn your key on, and you'll see that the light on there illuminates blue. That means it's working. The green light is on the phone. That means that it's charging. Finito. Finito. See you on the next one. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't like the video, give it a like. See ya.